The Galactic Council Hall stood like a shining jewel in the middle of the vast capital world of Ardent Prime. Its tall crystal towers reached into the clouds, and its silver floors reflected the light of two suns. It was a place where the great voices of the galaxy met, a symbol of peace, progress, and diplomacy. Every race, from the winged Seraphim to the scaled Dravari, had a seat here, and in one corner of that great circle sat the humans. Humanity's representatives had always been a small group among many. They were new to the stars compared to the ancient races that had ruled the council for thousands of years. Still, they had earned a place through effort, creativity, and courage. In less than 300 years, they had spread across dozens of systems, building colonies, industries, and ideas that others admired, and sometimes feared. Ambassador Elaine Carter, leader of the Terran delegation, sat quietly at the long glass table. Her brown hair was tied back neatly, her suit plain but dignified. Around her sat other members of her team, Commander Rahul Singh, Dr. Marcus Lee, and Communication Officer Ava Torres. Their faces were calm, but there was a storm behind their eyes. They had been in this hall for months trying to secure fair rights for humanity's colonies beyond the Orion Belt. And every day, the talks had led nowhere. At the center of the room, the council speaker, but tall, blue-skinned, being named Kareth of the Valoran, raised his hands. His voice was smooth but heavy with authority. "Ambassador Carter," he said, "we have reviewed your request again. The council appreciates human ambition, but these worlds you seek to claim fall within protected space. Granting you access could upset the balance." Elaine kept her tone steady. "With respect, Speaker Kareth, those worlds are uninhabited and lie outside any active borders. We have surveyed them carefully. All we ask for is the right to settle peacefully." A faint ripple of laughter moved through the chamber. The Dravari delegate, a large reptilian with shining scales, leaned forward and said, "Peacefully? The last time humans said that, you turned a barren rock into a shipyard capable of building war cruisers." Commander Singh clenched his jaw but said nothing. Elaine gave him a look that said, "Stay calm," she replied. "That shipyard now produces rescue ships and trade vessels. Humanity does not seek war." The Arkan representative, a tall figure with translucent skin and glowing eyes, spoke softly. "Your kind moves too fast. The Council cannot allow unchecked expansion. You are still young, and young races can be unpredictable." Elaine took a breath. She had heard those words too many times: young, unpredictable, not ready. Behind her calm eyes burned years of frustration. Humanity had followed the Council's rules. They had shared technology, joined peace missions, and sent aid across the stars. Yet every time they reached for something new, someone pulled their hand back. "Unpredictable," Elaine repeated quietly. "Perhaps that is why we've survived every storm we've faced." Her voice carried across the hall, soft but clear. The chamber grew still. Many eyes turned toward her, and some curious, some annoyed. The speaker frowned slightly. "Ambassador, this tone is not helpful. The Council must protect order. And who protects fairness?" Elaine asked. "Every world in this hall was once young. You were all given a chance to grow. Why is humanity always asked to wait?" A deep silence followed. Even the translation drones paused for half a second before resuming their quiet hums. Kareth's voice turned colder. "Ambassador Carter, humanity's impatience is not our problem. These decisions are final." Elaine looked at him steadily. "Then this council is no longer a council, and it is a throne." Gasps echoed. The Dravari delegate hissed. The Arkan turned his head in disbelief, and several translators blinked red as they struggled to process the tone in her words. "Ambassador," the speaker snapped. "Mind your language. You forget where you are." Elaine stood. "No, Speaker Kareth. I remember exactly where I am. I am in a hall built to speak for all species. Yet only a few are ever heard." Her fellow humans rose behind her. Commander Singh adjusted his coat and said softly, "We came here in good faith. But good faith is not a one-way road." Dr. Lee added, "We offered solutions, science, and support. You offered silence." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Elaine looked around the massive chamber, her voice quiet but strong. "If our friendship is built only on control, then it was never friendship." And with that, she turned and began to walk toward the exit. Her steps echoed sharply against the marble floor. The rest of her team followed without hesitation. Not a single human looked back. The council chamber erupted into noise. Some shouted for them to stop. Others argued among themselves. A few laughed nervously as if this were some kind of drama. But the laughter died quickly when the doors closed behind the humans with a soft metallic thud. Outside the hall, Elaine and her team walked through the long corridor of white light. No one spoke. The walls reflected their figures, small but steady. At the far end waited a transport drone to take them back to the human embassy. Commander Singh finally broke the silence. "That's it then. We're done," Elaine nodded. "Yes, let them think what they want." Ava Torres, the youngest of the group, looked uncertain. "Do you think they'll call us back?" "They won't," Elaine said. "Not until they realize what they've lost." They boarded the transport and the doors closed softly. The drone lifted into the air, gliding smoothly over the shining city below. From the window, the great spires of the council hall grew smaller and smaller, until they were only a bright point in the distance. Back at the embassy, human staff had already heard the news. Some were worried, others relieved. For years they had fought to be heard in that vast political machine. Now it was over. Elaine entered her office, removed her badge, and placed it carefully on the desk. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of the city outside. She looked out the window toward the stars above. "Maybe it's time we stop asking," she whispered. "Maybe it's time we start building again." Meanwhile, in the council hall, chaos had not ended. The speaker demanded order, but his voice was drowned out by a storm of questions and fears. What if they cut off their technology? They control the jump gates near Sol. We can't let them isolate. "They're just humans," another voice said nervously. "They'll come back." But even those who said it didn't believe it. The humans had walked away quietly, and that was what made it terrifying. There was no anger, no threats, no arguments. Just silence and departure. And silence in politics was the loudest sound of all. Kareth sat in his chair long after the others had left. The stars shone through the ceiling dome above him. For the first time, the great speaker of the council felt something he could not name. It was not anger, not frustration. It was unease. He opened a communication line to his assistant. "Send a message to Earth," he said. "Yes, Speaker." "What should it say?" "Tell them." "The council requests a private discussion." The assistant paused. "And if they don't answer?" Kareth hesitated. "Then we will find out how long silence can last." On Earth, the message arrived. It blinked in the communication center of the Terran Assembly for 6 hours before anyone responded. When the reply finally came, it contained only 4 words. "Talks concluded. Humanity withdraws, no threats, no promises, just a decision." From that day, human ships began returning home. Trade routes were paused. Shared research projects were suspended. And for the first time in decades, Earth closed its doors to the galaxy. Out in the endless stars, the universe felt a little emptier. But somewhere deep in human space, lights began to shine, quiet, focused, and determined. The humans were done asking for a place in the galaxy. Now they were ready to make one. The stars over Sol had never looked so calm. From orbit, Earth shone like a blue lantern against the darkness, silent and distant. Ships still moved in the system, patrol craft, cargo vessels, and research transports. But every signal, every broadcast, was now directed only to human stations. For the first time in living memory, no alien voice echoed through Terran space. The Galactic Council noticed the silence almost immediately. Their trade channels showed missing routes. Their ambassadors received no replies. The humans had not declared war, nor had they threatened anyone. They had simply closed their doors and vanished into their own systems. On Ardent Prime, the same massive hall where the humans had once sat now felt emptier. The human seats were gone, removed quietly by maintenance drones. The place looked cleaner, but somehow it carried a hollow echo, like a memory that refused to fade. Speaker Kareth stood before the council again, his face drawn with exhaustion. "We have sent 7 envoys to Earth," he said. "None have received an answer. The humans have locked their communication network. Even our best diplomats cannot reach them." The Arkan representative, glowing faintly under the dome light, folded his arms. "Perhaps it is only temporary. Humans are emotional. They will calm down." But the Dravari, with scales glinting dark green, let out a low growl. "Emotional? Do you remember when they rebuilt their moon after that accident? No other race could have done that so fast." "No, this is not emotion. This is planning," the council murmured in unease. For centuries, humans had been both admired and underestimated. They were adaptable, clever, and full of strange hope that never seemed to die. They could survive on worlds others called uninhabitable, create technology that worked better and cheaper, and fight diseases that ancient species had long accepted as fate. But now their silence was louder than any of those achievements. Weeks passed. The Council's supply networks began to strain. The medical nanites used across 100 worlds, built from human designs, needed special Terran crystals to function. Without new shipments, entire hospitals began to shut down. Energy cells, starship engines, even translation systems depended on human components. Many species had stopped making their own versions centuries ago because the humans' designs were easier and better. One morning, the news feeds across the galaxy displayed the same headline: Trade collapse expected within 2 weeks. Human absence cripples supply chains. The Council tried to calm the panic. Official messages declared that everything was under control. But in the streets of 1,000 worlds, people whispered in fear. Why did the humans leave? Will they come back? What if their machines stop working? Back on Earth, life continued, quietly, efficiently. The Terran Assembly had called for strategic isolation. All resources were now focused inward, rebuilding industries, reconnecting colonies, and improving technologies that once had been shared freely. In the capital city of Geneva, Ambassador Elaine Carter stood on the balcony of the Assembly Tower. The view stretched across the lake, where clean energy ships glided silently over the water. The world below her was peaceful, too peaceful. Commander Rahul Singh joined her. His uniform was plain, marked only with the insignia of the United Terran Fleet. "They're panicking," he said, handing her a datapad. "Our listening satellites picked up a dozen distress signals from Council systems. Energy shortages, medical failures. It's getting worse." Elaine read the reports without a word. Finally, she sighed. "We warned them. For years we told them we needed equal standing. They refused," Singh nodded. "Now they see the cost." She looked at the sky, the faint silver lines where ships ascended into orbit. "Do you think we should help?" He hesitated. "Not yet. Let them understand first. They took us for granted. If we return too early, they'll never change." In orbit above Earth, the Sol Defense Network glowed with new life. Massive satellites were being upgraded, and orbital shipyards were busy with new designs. Every station that once housed foreign observers was now guarded by Terran security. In the main control center, engineers monitored transmissions across the human sphere. Each system was active on Mars, Luna, Europa, and Titan, but all external gates were closed. No one entered, no one left. Dr. Marcus Lee, head of Terran research, stood before a holographic map of human space. "We are stable," he reported to the Assembly Council through the network. "Production is rising again. Trade between our colonies has increased by 30% since isolation began." Elaine appeared on the main screen. "Good. The galaxy thinks we are retreating, but we are rebuilding." "Keep it that way," Dr. Lee smiled faintly. "They underestimated us, Ambassador, again. On Ardent Prime, panic was spreading inside the Council's inner circles. The Seraphim envoy, a tall being with feathered wings, slammed her hands against the table. "We cannot survive like this. Our energy grid depends on Terran reactors. Without them, our cities will go dark in months." Kareth rubbed his forehead. "We have already sent new requests to Earth, no reply." "Then we must force communication," said the Dravari representative. The hall grew quiet. Even suggesting the use of force against a member species was almost unthinkable. Kareth stared at him. "You would start a conflict? Against the humans? You remember what happened when pirates tried to invade their colonies?" Everyone remembered. A century ago, a group of raiders from beyond Council space had attacked a Terran world. The humans had responded swiftly, not with fury but with precision. Within days, the pirates vanished from history. The Seraphim envoy shook her head. "No, violence will not work. But perhaps we can send aid, gifts, supplies. Maybe they will see our goodwill." Kareth looked out through the dome. The stars seemed sharper now, colder. "Perhaps," he said softly. "But I fear the humans have already decided to move beyond us." Far from Earth, on the outer edge of the Sol system, a massive human fleet drifted in silence. Thousands of ships, exploration cruisers, freighters, and science vessels, stood in formation. Their hulls glowed with faint blue light, powered by new drives that the Council had never seen before. Inside the command ship Aurora, Admiral Helena Reyes reviewed the formation report. Her voice was calm as she spoke into the communicator. All units report status. Fleet 1 ready. Fleet 2 ready. Science Division online. Energy core stable. Helena nodded. Initiate Project Horizon. The lights across the fleet brightened. Slowly, the massive vessels turned toward the edge of the solar system. Engines hummed to life, preparing for a journey into uncharted space. On Earth, Dr. Lee watched the data feed. His eyes widened as he saw the energy readings. They're really doing it, he whispered. They're preparing to leave the mapped galaxy. Elaine Carter stood behind him, watching silently. We gave them every chance, she said. Now humanity will make its own path. In the following weeks, the Galactic Council's situation worsened. Entire colonies began to experience shortages. Starship routes grew dangerous as human-built navigational satellites went offline. Still, no message came from Earth. Some species started small protests against their own leaders. You depended too much on them, the citizens cried. You said humans were simple, like now we suffer because of your pride. For the first time in centuries, the mighty Galactic Council felt helpless. Kareth met privately with the Arkan representative late one night. The Great Hall was empty except for their shadows. They were only one species, Kareth said, almost to himself. How can the absence of one make the galaxy tremble? The Arkan replied quietly. Because they built bridges, not walls. We built rules. They built hope. Kareth stared into the darkness, realizing the truth. The humans had left peacefully, without anger or threat, yet their absence had revealed something deeper. How much the galaxy had come to depend on them, not just for machines or trade, but for spirit. Without humanity's presence, the Council's proud alliance began to crack. On the far side of the moon, a small research base transmitted a short message to the Terran Assembly. All systems stable. Expansion preparations continue. Awaiting final orders. Elaine read the report and smiled faintly. Let the galaxy panic, she said softly. For now we build in peace. Outside, the stars shimmered over Earth, bright, endless, and full of possibility. Humanity had gone silent not because they were weak, but because they had grown strong enough to choose silence. And somewhere, beyond the reach of the Council's fears, new engines whispered to life, pointing toward the unknown. The galaxy had lost contact with humanity, but it had not yet understood what that truly meant. For when humans grow quiet, it is never the end. It is the calm before creation. The silence of humanity had now lasted 3 long months. 3 months of unanswered messages. 3 months of trade collapse, stalled research, and uneasy whispers across the stars. The Galactic Council had begun to fracture. On Ardent Prime, the once proud hall of diplomacy now looked weary. Delegates who once spoke in confident tones now argued in whispers. The grand banners of unity hung dull and faded. The absence of the humans had drained something unseen, a kind of quiet balance that no one had realized existed until it was gone. Speaker Kareth entered the chamber early one morning. His face showed the marks of sleepless nights. Data reports floated before him in glowing screens, each filled with grim numbers. Production down, system efficiency down, energy shortages rising. He sighed and turned to his aide. Status of the envoy fleets? The aide hesitated. 3 have returned. None made contact. The 4th has not come back, Kareth frowned. Lost? Disappeared, the aide said. Last report places them near the border of human space. Their signal just stopped. Kareth closed the report and stared out the tall window. Beyond the horizon, the stars looked peaceful, but he could not shake the feeling that something vast was moving behind that calm. Across the galaxy, rumors had begun to spread. A transport captain claimed to have seen strange ships near the edge of human territory. Dark, silent vessels that did not match any known design. A scout probe recorded flashes of energy near Sol before it was recalled. On the outer colony of Velis Prime, miners swore they saw entire fleets moving in formation across the deep night, glowing like blue ghosts. Most dismissed the stories as nonsense. But deep inside, no one could ignore the growing unease. The humans were not hiding. They were preparing. In a secret meeting chamber beneath the council dome, A few trusted leaders gathered around a circular table. The lights were dim and the air was heavy with tension. The Seraphim envoy, her wings folded tightly, spoke first. "We are losing control. Every major network used human technology. Without their support, our ships grow slower, our medicine weaker. Even the jump gates are becoming unstable." The Dravari representative slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Then we must act. We cannot let them isolate forever. They are planning something. The longer we wait, the stronger they become." Kareth looked at him calmly. "And what would you have us do? Attack them? You would risk war with the very species that once saved half our colonies from collapse?" The room fell silent. Kareth continued. "I do not believe they wish for war. Humans are not conquerors. But they are determined. If they feel wronged, they will not fight to destroy. They will fight to build something better without us." The Archon envoy's voice was soft but trembling. "And that speaker may be worse than war. If they create something new, a new council, a new alliance, on what place will we have left?" Kareth said nothing. In his heart, he already feared that it was too late. Meanwhile, in human space, the rebuilding had turned into something greater. At the orbital shipyards above Mars, construction never stopped. New ships were being built, not for war but for discovery. Their hulls shimmered with advanced alloys that could survive near stars. Their engines pulsed with quiet energy, capable of reaching the edge of known space in months instead of years. Project New Dawn had entered its final phase. Inside the command deck of the flagship Aurora, Admiral Helena Reyes watched rows of engineers and scientists working in perfect rhythm. Holographic displays filled the room. Maps of unknown regions, test results, energy readings. Dr. Marcus Lee stood beside her. "All drives are stable. Power efficiency up 20%. The fleet is ready for deep space travel." Helena smiled slightly. "Then we are ready to show the galaxy that humanity's silence was not a retreat." It was progress. From her window, she could see Earth below, calm, bright, beautiful. For generations, humanity had looked up to the stars as students. Now they were becoming teachers. Back on Ardent Prime, the Council held an emergency session after receiving new reports. Speaker Kareth, a nervous analyst, said, projecting a hologram, "Our scouts near the frontier recorded this before losing contact." The image flickered, showing a formation of large ships, sleek and bright, moving in perfect silence. There was no identification, no response, no hostility, only the faint glow of blue light along their hulls. The delegates leaned forward in shock. The ships looked nothing like the old Terran designs they knew. They were smoother, faster, more elegant, almost alive. The Seraphim envoy whispered, "They've advanced again. In only 3 months." The Dravari growled, "What are they building? A fleet to threaten us?" Kareth shook his head. "No, if they wanted war, they would not hide. They are building something for themselves." The room fell silent again. Every species present could feel the same truth. Fear mixed with respect. In the following weeks, mysterious transmissions began to appear in the void. Not in any known language, not even using the Council's standard frequencies. They were mathematical codes, perfectly ordered, carrying messages that no one could decrypt. Council scientists worked day and night to break the signal, but they made little progress. The codes were far beyond anything known, layered, shifting, self-correcting. At last, one young researcher made a discovery. "These aren't messages between worlds," she said breathlessly. "They're instructions, navigation patterns. The humans are mapping the galaxy in real time. Every second, they're building a complete star network." When the Council heard that, panic spread. For millennia, the Council had claimed to be the guiding hand of the galaxy, the center of order. But now one species, young, passionate, once treated as a lesser member, was quietly building a network that could surpass it all. In the Terran Assembly Tower, Elaine Carter received the latest reports. The Aurora fleet was nearly ready for launch. Project New Dawn had united humanity's brightest minds across every world. She watched the holographic feed of the Council's latest meeting, shouting, arguing, confusion. Then she turned off the display and said softly, "They still do not understand. We didn't leave to punish them. We left to remember who we are." Commander Singh entered the room holding a small data crystal. "Ambassador, the Council sent another message. They're asking to reopen talks. They say they'll accept the colony rights. Elaine smiled sadly. Too late. We asked for fairness, not permission. They offered neither. She placed the data crystal aside and looked at the stars beyond the window. Still, we won't turn them into enemies. Let them see what humanity becomes when we stop asking and start creating. A month later, a single event shook the galaxy. A deep space telescope on Ardent Prime detected something extraordinary. A bright flash far beyond human territory, followed by the appearance of dozens of new signals, human signals. They had opened a gate. Not a council-made gate, but their own. Faster, cleaner, more stable. A technology that no one had believed possible. The news spread across every world within hours. Crowds gathered in city squares staring up at the sky. Some were afraid, others amazed. The humans had done it. They had made a path beyond the known galaxy. Speaker Kareth watched the reports in silence. Around him, his advisors argued. Some called for alliance, others for caution. But Kareth simply whispered, "They did not build this to conquer us. They built this to free themselves." On board the Aurora, Admiral Reyes received the confirmation. The new gate, and the first of its kind, was fully stable. The fleet was ready to explore beyond the edge of the Milky Way. Dr. Lee stood beside her, awe in his eyes. "We actually did it. A new dawn for humanity," Helena smiled. "And this time, no one can tell us to wait." A soft light filled the command bridge as the engines came to life. The ships turned toward the open gate, its shimmering light like a rising sun in the darkness. Elaine Carter's voice came over the communication line, clear and calm. "Let history remember. We walked away not because we were angry, but because we were ready." And with that, the Aurora and its fleet moved forward, disappearing into the glowing gate. Back in the council hall, silence filled the chamber as the news spread. No one spoke for a long time. The Arkan envoy finally broke the stillness. "They have left us behind," he said softly. Kareth looked up at the stars shining through the dome. "Perhaps not," he said. "Perhaps they have shown us the way forward." The room remained quiet, filled not with pride or anger, but with awe. For the first time, the galaxy realized the truth. The humans had not disappeared. They had simply stepped beyond, and somewhere far beyond the known stars, a human fleet sailed into the infinite dark, carrying the light of a new beginning. Earth's orbital stations glimmered under the soft light of the sun. From orbit, the planet looked calm, even serene, but beneath the quiet surface, humanity was building something extraordinary. The Terran Assembly had declared Project New Dawn complete. The goal was clear. Humanity would no longer wait for permission to grow, expand, or explore. They would build their own path into the stars, and they would do so with care, intelligence, and unity. Admiral Helena Reyes walked along the main construction deck of the orbital shipyard above Mars. Around her, engineers and scientists moved with precision. Every ship, every station, every system was monitored and adjusted constantly. The fleet gleamed like silver light stretching across the dock, its surface reflecting the blue glow of the orbital cities. Commander Rahul Singh joined her, holding a holographic display of the entire fleet. "All ships are ready," he reported. "The engines, navigation, energy cores, everything is operational." Helena smiled. "Good. Humanity's silence has become preparation. Soon the galaxy will see what we can do without waiting for approval." The flagship Aurora floated at the center of the fleet. It was massive yet elegant. Unlike warships of the Council, it carried no weapons for destruction. Its purpose was exploration, endurance, and creation. Its hull shimmered with adaptive alloys that could withstand extreme heat and pressure, while its engines were faster, cleaner, and more powerful than any starship in known space. Dr. Marcus Lee approached them, adjusting his data panel. "We've completed the final tests on the interstellar navigation grid. The fleet can now traverse sectors that the Council has yet to map. Life support systems are sustainable for centuries if needed, and..." He paused, letting a small smile appear. "The AI cores are fully integrated. They can make decisions autonomously while remaining ethical. Nothing will be wasted, nothing will harm life unnecessarily." Helena nodded, feeling the weight of what had been accomplished. Humanity had built not just ships, but a symbol of independence, a beacon for the future. On Earth, Ambassador Elaine Carter looked out from the top of the assembly tower. The planet's cities glowed like scattered jewels. She felt a quiet pride. Humanity had once asked for equality. The Council had refused, and now humanity would show that it did not need permission to create its own destiny. Commander Singh approached her. "They're still watching," he said. "The Council has sent envoys, and satellites report increased observation. Some are even trying to send messages again." Elaine shook her head. "They will wait. Curiosity and fear take longer to mix than any order.
Let them watch.
Let them learn the truth, that we grow stronger when we are united, when we trust each other, and when we act together." Deep inside the orbiting command center, engineers initiated the final stage of the New Dawn project. Each ship's engines thrummed quietly as energy flowed through the cores. Artificial intelligence systems ran final simulations, checking navigation, supplies, and communications. Every element was designed to function perfectly, even in the vast emptiness of uncharted space. In the control room, Helena watched the feeds of the newly constructed human colonies. Each planet and station had contributed to the project. Every human world from Mars to Titan, Luna to the outer asteroid settlements had sent scientists, engineers, and materials. The result was a network of human knowledge and capability that no other species in the galaxy could match. "This is beyond anything the Council expects," Dr. Lee said softly. "Even their most advanced probes cannot predict what we've built." Helena nodded. "And they will see it soon enough. Not to fear us, but to understand what humans can do when left free to act." In the Council Hall on Ardent Prime, panic had grown into obsession. Reports arrived almost hourly of strange energy signatures near human systems. Scouts attempted to investigate, only to report ships moving faster than expected, shields beyond known limits, and engines that did not match any design in the Council's archives. "The humans are building something," the Dravari delegate said, claws tapping on the table. "Something beyond our understanding." The Seraphin envoy whispered, "They are not attacking. They are creating. But the scale. I have never seen such unity before. They are extraordinary." Kareth, the speaker, sat quietly. "We believed we were guiding the galaxy. But perhaps we have only been observers while humans built something new." Silence fell over the chamber. Even the youngest delegate sensed a shift. Humanity, once considered young and impulsive, had grown into a force not of destruction, but of creation and possibility. Back in human space, Project New Dawn reached its climax. Admiral Helena Reyes stood before the assembled fleet. Thousands of ships, from small exploration crafts to massive carriers, were aligned in formation. Their lights reflected softly across the docking bays like a constellation brought to life. Elaine Carter addressed the assembly over the communication line, her voice calm but resolute. "Humanity has walked away from the Council not to punish, not to dominate, but to remember who we are. We are builders, explorers, guardians of life. This fleet represents all that we have achieved when we trust each other, when we act together, and when we dream freely." The engineers and crew nodded in understanding. For years they had labored quietly, without recognition, without argument. Now their work would carry humanity into the stars in a way no other species had imagined. Commander Singh added, "The fleet is ready. All systems green. Engines are primed. Life support is stable. We await your command." Elaine looked at the horizon of space where the first probes of the uncharted sectors awaited deployment. "Then let us step forward, not with anger or pride, but with purpose. Humanity will explore, create, and inspire." The fleet engines hummed in response, a soft, powerful sound that seemed to echo across the solar system. For weeks, human vessels had remained near Sol, preparing quietly. No one from the Council could see the scope of the project. Every colony had contributed to navigation, life support, AI programming, and engineering. The humans had hidden nothing from themselves and yet hidden everything from the galaxy. Finally, the moment arrived. The Aurora, flagship of the fleet, powered up its core. Lights ran along the hull like veins of energy. Crew members held their positions, hearts steady with anticipation. The smaller vessels aligned perfectly, forming a living web of ships that could travel far beyond the known galaxy. Helena spoke over the internal comms. "All crews prepare for jump. The path is clear. Humanity begins the journey into the unknown. Remember that this is not conquest. This is exploration, creation, and the demonstration of what unity can achieve." As the engines roared quietly to life, a soft blue light enveloped the fleet. Outside, Earth and the human colonies glowed in the background. The fleet did not leave in haste or anger, but with purpose and grace. On Ardent Prime, Council scientists finally decrypted a small portion of the mysterious human transmissions. They revealed not threats, not warnings, but instructions, pathways to explore, resource guides, and system maps beyond the edge of the galaxy. The realization struck the Council like lightning. Humanity had not only built a fleet, they had built a network of knowledge and exploration capabilities that could surpass any other species. The Dravari delegate whispered, "They are teaching themselves, and the galaxy will follow eventually." Kareth, for the first time in his long life, felt awe mixed with fear. We underestimated them again, and now we see only the beginning. Back in orbit around Mars, Admiral Reyes watched the last engines stabilize. "The fleet is ready," she said. "Humanity's new dawn is complete," Elaine Carter nodded. "And now we will show the galaxy that humans do not ask permission to exist. We build, we explore, we inspire, and in doing so we remind the galaxy what it means to truly create." Outside, the stars stretched infinitely. The human fleet glimmered in formation, poised to step beyond known space. Its engines pulsed gently, a heartbeat of determination, intelligence, and hope. The Council would watch. The galaxy would watch, and somewhere deep in the infinite dark, humanity would begin a journey that no one could predict, a journey that would teach the galaxy a lesson older than time. Never underestimate the creativity, courage, and unity of humans. The galaxy had been waiting. Months had passed since humanity had withdrawn. The Council had grown restless, uncertain, and fearful. Rumors had spread faster than light. Humans were building fleets beyond imagination, constructing gates to unknown regions, and creating technologies no one could fully understand. Yet, no one knew exactly what humanity would do next. On Ardent Prime, the Council convened an urgent session. The chamber was full, but the usual confidence had been replaced by tension. Delegates whispered among themselves, their eyes darting to the empty human seats that had once been filled with quiet determination. "They have not responded to our messages," the Dravari delegate hissed. 3 months of silence. "They control technology that powers half our systems, yet they have made no threats. What do they want?" The Seraphin envoy shook her head. "I do not know, but I sense patience and power, quiet, careful, patient power." Speaker Kareth leaned forward, his voice heavy with thought. "Perhaps we do not yet understand humanity. They have shown restraint. They have built in silence, and now the galaxy waits. No one knew that humanity had not been idle. They had built. They had tested. They had prepared for the moment when they could step forward, not as petitioners asking for permission, but as equals, or even as teachers. Far beyond the outer colonies of the Terran sphere, human vessels glided silently through space. The Aurora fleet, now fully operational, was stationed near a critical Council-controlled sector. Their engines were powerful but quiet, their shields strong but elegant. They carried supplies, medical aid, and engineers trained to solve problems quickly and safely. Inside the command deck of the Aurora, Admiral Helena Reyes reviewed the situation. Sensors confirm multiple Council colonies facing system failures. Energy grids faltering. Medical networks at risk. Entire populations depend on our designs. Commander Rahul Singh looked at her with calm resolve. "They will need us, and we can help, but we do it on our terms, not theirs." Dr. Marcus Lee joined them, projecting a holographic map. "We can reach the affected systems in under 40 hours. Our AI has optimized every route and resource allocation. We can save millions without disturbing the natural order." Helena nodded. "Then we begin. Humanity will not simply return. We will lead by action, by example, and by unity." The first signs of humanity's return were subtle. A Council colony on the outer rim detected a sudden stabilization in their energy grid. A medical facility reported their failing nanites had begun to operate normally. Communications networks reconnected. The news spread like a quiet ripple. At first it was disbelief. Did humans restore the systems? By the next day, more colonies reported improvements. Starship engines powered up, trade routes cleared, and navigation satellites began functioning again. And still there were no human messages, no demands. No warnings, just action. For the Council, The realization was slow and terrifying. Humanity had returned not as petitioners, not as subjects, but as the architects of solutions. On Ardent Prime, the delegates convened once more. The Dravari delegate slammed a clawed hand on the table. "They are helping." Without asking, "How is this possible?" the Seraphin envoy nodded. "We believed they had withdrawn. We thought their silence meant retreat. But this is mastery. They work quietly, efficiently, without need for authority or orders. They are beyond what we expected." Speaker Kareth leaned back in his chair. "We treated them as young, reckless, unpredictable. Yet here they are, saving worlds we could not maintain, teaching us that restraint, intelligence, and unity can move faster than power or rules." The room was silent. Even centuries-old delegates found themselves humbled. Meanwhile, in orbit near Titan, Elaine Carter addressed the Aurora fleet. Her voice was calm, her tone steady. "We return not to demand respect, not to take revenge, but to restore balance. We act for life, for progress, and for unity. Humanity steps forward to remind the galaxy what it means to create together." The crew nodded. They had trained for months, but now the weight of responsibility pressed on every one of them. They moved with precision, moving supplies, deploying repair units, and stabilizing failing systems. Over the next few days, the Aurora fleet and its support ships moved like a river of light across the affected sectors. Energy networks were restored, medical systems repaired, and research stations returned to operation. Entire colonies that had been struggling were suddenly functioning better than before. The Council watched in awe. Every improvement was quiet, efficient, and meticulous. There were no headlines, no demands, only results. For the first time, Speaker Kareth called for an open discussion. "We underestimated them," he admitted. "Not because of their youth, but because of our arrogance. They act not out of pride or anger, but out of intelligence, cooperation, and vision. Perhaps we should learn from them rather than control them." The other delegates nodded reluctantly. Fear had given way to respect. After weeks of effort, the Aurora fleet returned to Sol orbit. Its engines glowed softly, a testament to humanity's unity and strength. The ships were not greeted with fanfare or parades. They did not demand attention. Instead, they docked, and crews began distributing resources, sharing technology upgrades, and coordinating with human colonies across the system. Elaine Carter met with ambassadorial representatives from several council species via secure channels. Her expression was calm, dignified. "You asked why we left," she said simply. "Because we needed to remember who we are. And now you see, humanity grows stronger not by taking but by creating, by helping, and by thinking together. We walked away to build our path, and now we walk forward to share it." Her words were simple, yet they carried the weight of decades of struggle and achievement. Across the council, reactions varied. Some delegates were humbled. Others remained nervous, fearing what humanity might do next. But none could deny the truth. Humans had returned not as followers, not as subjects, but as partners, and their actions had taught a lesson the galaxy would not forget. Strength lies not in dominance, but in unity, intelligence, and the courage to act wisely. Beyond the immediate crises, humanity continued its exploration. The New Dawn project had not only rebuilt systems, it had opened gateways to regions previously unmapped. Human scouts ventured into unknown sectors, observing, recording, and sharing knowledge back to the Terran Assembly. Yet even as they expanded, humans did not forget the galaxy they had helped sustain. Trade routes reopened on their terms, research networks flourished, and colonies that had once been neglected received support they had never expected. Every action reinforced the same truth. Humanity did not need to demand attention to make a difference. Quiet action, guided by intelligence and purpose, could achieve more than authority or force. The Galactic Council gradually came to understand the lesson. Slowly, envoys were sent not to give orders or request permission, but to ask questions, observe, and learn. Council species watched human fleets, studied their technology, and saw the unity that guided their decisions. Speaker Kareth, once proud and commanding, now spoke with humility. "We believed we guided the galaxy, but humanity has taught us that guidance is not about control. It is about vision, patience, and collaboration." The Arkan delegate added softly, "They have shown us that even the youngest species can teach the oldest lessons." The Council began to adjust its policies. Cooperation replaced condescension. Shared projects with humans were designed as partnerships, not supervision. Humanity had returned not to dominate, but to inspire. Finally, after months of careful, quiet work, the Aurora fleet prepared to leave for further exploration. Its crew stood ready, their hearts steady and confident. Admiral Helena Reyes addressed the team. Humanity's return has reminded the galaxy of one truth. When we walk away, it is not to hide. When we return, it is not to conquer. We act because we can, because we must, and because it is the right path forward. Today we continue to explore, to create, and to lead by example. The engines hummed. The lights of the fleet pulsed like the heartbeat of humanity itself. And one by one, the ships slipped into the uncharted darkness, moving toward new worlds and new possibilities. The Council watched, silent but changed, and the galaxy realized for the first time in history that humanity did not need to ask permission to walk among the stars. They were already remarkable, they were already unstoppable, and they had just begun.